Hi, how you doing? Sun's shining, we're into summer, COVID's over, but one thing that is not over is the appalling situation with regards to housing in Britain, particularly in the very expensive south-southeast where we're living. And one of the key reasons we are in such a dreadful dilemma is, you may recall Mrs. Thatcher many decades ago introduced the right to buy, which really I don't have a great deal of objection to, providing you have an obligation to rebuild what you've sold off. And that wasn't a part of the Conservative policy. Basically what Mrs. Thatcher saw in the far distant future was a shareholding, house-owning democracy. Well, the reality is that was never likely to really happen. I mean, the privatisation that occurred, many of those who bought shares, very few of those still own those shares. It's gone into venture capitalists, etc., etc. A number of people made a little bit of money, many institutions made a fortune. And here we are, several decades later, and we have a dreadful situation where we are at least 1 million dwellings short for the population that we have, and we have a population that is increasing. We have a demand on housing that is increasing, in that we have more separations, less people living in more houses, more old folk living in very big houses because there's inappropriate housing to move into. The whole of the housing market is pretty much a mess, and there's no leadership, and hasn't been any leadership from a laissez-faire Tory government for several decades. Basically, the house developers, landowners, etc. have been pretty much given carte blanche to build what they want, where they want, and how they want. And it's not for the betterment and the benefit of those of us who live here. And it is appalling to me that a young couple, both possibly with degrees, both paying back student loans, are not in a position to actually own a home. They may have to rent one. And one of the things that have happened since COVID and during COVID is the tenure or the security of those in rented accommodation is less and less secure, because Airbnb now is a better way of a number of landlords utilising their property purely for profit. Now, I want to just share with you one of the latest approved plans that's been approved here in Felixstowe, and that's just for me to have a look-see at. I'm sure Bernard will put it up on the screen beside me. But fundamentally, it is a scheme which is got in the middle of it a linear park around a road, and it's got a child's play area right in the left-hand bottom corner of the development. The houses are, or the plots on which the houses are unbelievably small. Now, whether these are going to be 3-storey buildings, not really sure, but when I compare it to the estate that it's being built next to, which is one that's called Treetop, which is familiar to people here in Felixstowe, I would suggest that the actual land about the house is such to give you, around your own property, space to breathe and do. And what we found, did we not, in COVID, was one of the things that was needed greatly was people to get outside, get space, get air, etc., etc. This particular scheme, I actually sat and heard it being approved, and the Conservative chairman of the planning committee said that this was compliant in all respects. I find that appalling, that if that is the case, that the rules allows tomorrow's slums to be built today.
Liberal Democrats up and down the country are standing up for your community and getting things done.